Morning, my brothers and sisters. We're in Judges chapter 5 this morning. Being serenaded by the sounds of the livestock here in the homestead. For everybody who has asked incessantly, that's going to be an outhouse slash bathhouse. The reason we have an outhouse slash bathhouse with a ladies' room, family bathroom with a bathtub and a shower in it, and a men's room is because the Feast of Tabernacles is coming up, and we have a lot of people, and having a place for lots of people to poo and pee and wash their hands and take showers is a good idea. We learned this last year. Also, hashtag preparedness. But that's not why we're here today. We're here in Judges chapter 5, somewhere around page 257 if you're reading along in the scriptures. We read 3 and 4 last week, and so I would encourage you to go back through our playlist. If you have not read 3 and 4, go read 3 and 4, and if you'd like to read it with us, you can go find our playlist here on YouTube. We have an Old Testament playlist and a New Testament playlist. I've had precisely one sip of coffee. One. Let's make it 2. All right. And on that day, what day? And on that day, Elohim, go back a couple verses into 5, and on that day Elohim humbled Yabin, king of Canaan, in the presence of the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel grew stronger and stronger against Yabin, king of Canaan, until they had cut off Yabin, the king of Canaan. Excuse me. No, dog, I don't want to hang out with you. It's cold. You're wet. I don't know what you've been doing. No blood on him, so that's good. And on that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam. Abinoam sounds like something that they would add to like a protein powder. You know what I mean? Or like, it's got branch chain amino acids and abinoams. You know what I mean? And on that day, Deborah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang. They sang this, saying, for the leaders of Israel, for the people volunteering, bless Yahweh. Hear, O sovereigns, give ear, O princes. I do sing to Yahweh. I sing praise to Yahweh Elohim of Israel. Yahweh, when you went out from Seir, when you stepped from the field of Edom, the earth shook, and the heavens poured, and the clouds also poured water. The mountains flowed at the presence of Yahweh. The Sinai at the presence of Yahweh Elohim of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath, in the days of Yael, the highways were deserted, and the travelers went in crooked ways. Leadership ceased. It ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose. A mother in Israel arose. We talked about where the hell were all the men. Not taking nothing away from Deborah. Good job, Deb. But where the hell were all the men who were willing to stand up and fight for Yah, who were willing to be his chosen people? And so what we're going to see here in 5 is really it's a song, it's a prayer, it's an archetype of this sweeping prose of praise, and it's a remembrance. And so this is essentially storytelling. Remember that before this was ever written down, these were stories. There's an oral history that was handed down from one generation to the next to the next. And so we have a glimpse into that here in 5. And so if it seems a little prosaic, if it seems a little put on, it kind of is. Leadership ceased. It ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose. A mother in Israel arose. They chose new mighty ones. Then fighting was in the gates. Neither a shield nor spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart is towards the inscribers of Israel, the volunteers among the people. Bless Yahweh. You who ride on white donkeys, you who sit on rich carpets, and you who walk along the way, declare it. By the voice of shouters between the places of drawing water, there they recount the righteous acts of Yahweh, the righteous acts of his leadership in Israel. Then the people of Yahweh shall go down to the gates. They're saying, look, man, we just won this righteous victory over Canaan. Everybody's talking about it everywhere. Wake up, Deborah. Wake up, sing a song. Arise, Barak, and lead your captives away, O son of Abinoam. Then Yahweh, set the remnant to rule the nobles. There's a phrase. Set the remnant to rule the nobles. Maybe apply that to today's interesting socioeconomic, geopolitical struggle and strife that we find ourselves in. Then he set the remnant to rule the nobles. Yahweh came down for me against the mighty ones. Out of Ephraim, their root is against Amalek. After you, Benjamin, with your peoples, out of Machir, inscribers came down, and out of Zebulun, those who handled the scribes' reed. And the heads of Issachar were with Deborah. And as Issachar, so was Barak sent into the valley under his command. Among the divisions of Reuben, there were great searchings of heart. She's recounting who was there, who did what, who wasn't there, who didn't do what, as we'll see in a moment. Why did you remain among the sheepfolds to hear the bleatings of flocks? The divisions of Reuben have great searchings of heart. They were torn, Reuben was, whether or not they wanted to be involved in this little battlefield escapade. Gilead remained beyond the Jordan. Why did Dan remain on ships? Asher continued at the seashore and remained by its landing places. Zebulun is a people who risked their lives to the point of death. Naphtali also on the heights of the field. Kings came, they fought. Then the kings of Canaan fought in Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo. They took no spoils of silver. Now, it's important here when we think about kings, right? I think many of us tend to think of like medieval kings, perhaps, Renaissance kings, people that had lots of power and gold and silver and knights and horses and yeah, but that's not exactly what we're talking about here. These kings are more like chieftains, like the head dude, the patriarch of Canaan. When we say the king of Canaan, it's not necessarily that the dude was, bedazzled with gold and silver and wore the finest robes and was riding around on strange animals and, had people waiting on him hand and foot. No, he almost warlordism, strong man. The quality of life that these people enjoyed, as the king was probably better, but only by a degree or two, than the people that they served. We're not talking about opulence. I mean, we live far better today than the richest people on the face of the earth did even 100 years ago. Think about that. They were kings in that they were the rulers and leaders, but not necessarily a bunch of soft-handed, opulent beta males, working class kings, if you will. I have a vision in my mind of what I'm trying to describe here, but the words that I'm looking for aren't quite coming, so I apologize. Kings came. They fought. Then the king of Canaan fought in Tanakh by the waters of Megiddo. and they took no spoils of silver. From the heavens they fought. The stars from their courses fought against Sisera. The Wadi of Kishon swept them away, that age-old Wadi, the Wadi of Kishon. O my soul, O my being, you have trampled in strength. Then stamped hooves of horses with the galloping of his steeds. Curse Meroz, said a messenger of Yahweh. Curse its inhabitants, because they did not come to the help of Yahweh, to the help of Yahweh among the mighty. Blessed above women is Yael, the wife of Heber the Canaanite. Above women in tents she is blessed. He asked for water, she gave milk. She brought out curdled milk in a bowl for nobles. She stretched her hand to the tent peg, and her right hand to the workman's hammer. Then she pounded Sisera, she smashed his head, she pierced and struck through the side of his head. Between her feet he bowed, he fell, he lay still. Between her feet he bowed, he fell. Where he bowed, there he fell, destroyed. Through the window the mother of Sisera looked and cried out through the lattice, why does his chariot delay to come? Getting a little embellished here. Now Sisera's mom was like, oh, where is my son? Well, he's laying in a tent with a tent spike through the side of his head, but whatever. I'm saying, it's a little embellished. It's like, this is the soap opera version of ancient history right here. Through the window the mother of Sisera looked and cried out through the lattice, why does his chariot delay to come? Why have the steps of his chariots tarried? The wise ones of her princesses answered her. Indeed, she answered her herself. Do they not find and divide the spoil? A girl or two for each man, a spoil of dyed work for Sisera, a spoil of dyed work richly embroidered for the necks of the looters. So do all your enemies perish, O Yahweh, but let those who love him be like the sun rising in its might. And the land had rest for 40 years. Nice song, Deborah. Top 10 on the pop charts for sure. Any song that includes spiking somebody through the head is guaranteed to get somebody's attention for sure. You might even get a record deal. Alright, chapter 6. And the children of Israel, and the land had rest for 40 years. Last of verse, or chapter 5. Isn't it interesting how, like, we don't hear from Israel when times are good? Most of the history of what's in here, the vast majority of the history of what's in here is when Israel messes things up terribly. They're like, dear God, why? Save us from ourselves. And he's like, you a-holes, I've been telling you what to do for literally forever. And you just won't do it. Please, God, save us. It's like, told you. I'll tell you again if you want me to, but I told you what to do. Feral goat. Meet my daughter's pink BB gun. Direct hit. Right in the wither. Where were we? Judges. Chapter 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and Yahweh gave them into the hand of Midian for 7 years. So they had peace, they had rest for 40 years, then they done jacked up and did evil in the eyes of Yah, and then they were given into the hand of Midian for 7 years. So you reap what you sow. And the hand of Midian was strong against Israel, and before the faces of the Midianites, the children of Israel made for themselves the refuges which are in the mountains, and the caves and strongholds. And before the faces of the Midianites, the children of Israel made for themselves the refuges which are in the mountains, and the caves and the strongholds. They couldn't even hold the land that they had. Midian drove them out. They were up in the hills. And it came to be whenever Israel had sown, planted, that Midian would come up, and Amalek and the people of the east would come up against them, and encamp against them, and destroy the increase of the soil, as far as Azah, and leave no food in Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor donkey. So every time they'd plant, then the Midianites would come up and just camp. They would lay siege to them and eat all their food. What buttheads. For they came up with their livestock and their tents, coming in as numerous as locusts, and they and their camels were without number. They came into the land to destroy it. Thus Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh. They were humbled. They were also probably starving to death. Things to think about. And it came to be that when the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh because of Midian, that Yahweh sent a prophet to the children of Israel, who said to them, Thus said Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, I have brought you up from Mitzrayim, and I brought you out of the house of bondage. And I delivered you out of the hand of the Mitzrites, and out of the hand of all your oppressors, and drove them out before you, and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am Yahweh your Elohim. Do not fear the mighty ones of the Amorites, in whose land you dwell, and you have not obeyed my voice. So, it says they did evil in the eyes of Yah. Well, now we know what they did. They're bowing down to false gods. And this prophet says, hey man, I brought you out of Egypt. I brought you out of slavery. I delivered all of your enemies into your hand. I drove out all of your oppressors, and I gave you the land that you're in. And you're like, oh hey, there's Baal. Let's go worship Baal. Good idea. Remember, I hear this like regularly. Remember how you got here, kid. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The invisible hand of God is only invisible if you refuse to look for him. If you choose to forget him. If you disregard him. You don't want to disregard him because you don't want him to disregard you. It goes poorly for the people that he disregards, because eventually he throws his hands up and goes, you know what? I'm done. I'm done trying to convince you. I'm just going to let you reap what you have sown. And you're not going to like the taste of it. And I said to you, I am Yahweh your Elohim. Do not fear the mighty ones of the Amorites, in whose land you dwell, and you have not obeyed my voice. And the messenger of Yahweh came and sat under the terebinth tree. This is Yeshua, capital M, messenger of Yahweh. Came and sat under the terebinth tree, which was in Ophrah, there we go, which belonged to Joash, the Abiezerite, while his son Gideon threshed wheat in the winepress to hide it from the eyes of the Midianites. And the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him and said to him, Yahweh is with you, you mighty brave one. And Gideon said to him, O my master, if Yahweh is with us, why has all this come upon us? If God was with me, why would all this bad stuff happen to me? And where are all his wonders, which our fathers related to us, saying, Did not Yahweh bring us up from Mitzrayim? But now Yahweh has left us and given us into the hands of Midian. He's like, yeah, my dad told me all those cool stories about miracles, but I haven't seen any. If Yah's with me, how come we're being oppressed by the Midianites? Could you imagine standing there talking to Yeshua going, yeah, bro, but where is Yah? It's like, right in front of your face, a-hole. Wake up. And Yahweh turned to him and said, Go in this strength of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you? And he said to him, O Yahweh, with what do I save Israel? See, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least in my father's house. And Yahweh said to him, Because I am with you, you shall strike the Midians as one man. If you have this ordination, you will do it by yourself, if I say so. And he, Gideon, said to him, Please, if I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that it is you who are speaking with me. Please do not move away from here until I come to you and bring you my offering and set it before you. And he said, I shall stay until you return. So Gideon's like, hey man, let's do some bona fide stuff. I'm going to go make an offering. You wait here. Would you please stay here till I get back? And the messenger of Yahweh was like, yep, copied that. I will hold in position. Now that the sun's upon me, I don't necessarily need this skull cap. And Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from an ephah of flour. The meat he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot. And he brought them out to him under the terebinth tree and presented it. And the messenger of Elohim said to him, Take the meat and the unleavened bread and lay them on this rock and pour out the broth. And he did so. And the messenger of Yahweh put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and he touched the meat and the unleavened bread, and fire went up out of the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread. And the messenger of Yahweh went from his sight. Disappeared. And when Gideon saw that he was a messenger of Yahweh, Gideon said, O Master Yahweh, for I have seen a messenger of Yahweh face to face. And Yahweh said to him, Peace be with you. Do not fear. You do not die. Simmer down, kid. Be at peace. I'm not going to kill you. And Gideon built a slaughter place there to Yahweh and called it Yahweh Shalom. To this day it is still in Ophrah of the Abiezerites. That is a hell of a mouthful right there. The Abiezerites. And the same night it came to be that Yahweh said to him, Take the young bull of your father and the second young bull of 7 years old. Oh, and the second bull of 7 years old. And you shall throw down the slaughter place of Baal that your father has, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it. What is an Asherah? Anybody? The Asherim? Where is that? Numbers 10? Question mark? The Asherim are the I don't remember where it is in the Torah, but the Asherim are the phalluses, carved male genitalia, large, some of these things. The dancing around the maypole, that's a phallus. The steeple on top of a church, that's a phallus. The obelisk, that's a phallus. These are just penises that people be putting on top of everything. The hat on top of the Pope, that's a phallus. And I'm not saying this because I want to make people mad. I'm saying this because I was really mad when I found out too. That's what they are. And we're told to utterly destroy them, to cut them down, and to not build an altar to Yah anywhere that they have been. They're false pagan worship. I mean, it all goes back to Nimrod. Whole nother story for another time. But bowing down to false gods, Nimrod and Nimrod's penis, believe it or not, yeah, that's what's on top of many, many, many churches today. That's what's grown up out of the middle of Washington, D.C. That giant obelisk, that's what it is. The Egyptian obelisk, that's what it is. Everywhere you see an obelisk or a pyramid, that's what you're looking at. Nimrod's penis. And we put them on top of churches. And the common Christian toe the line phrase is, well, it's so we can raise ourselves up to be closer to God. No, that's bullcrap. That's not at all what it's about. It's pagan fertility worship. And the Father hates it. And so that's the Asherah. The Asherim are plural, multiple steeples, multiple obelisks. All right. Let's see. Starting again at 6:25. And at the same night it came to be that Yahweh said to him, take the young bull of your father and the second bull of 7 years old, and you shall throw down the slaughter place of Baal that your father has, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it. And you shall build a slaughter place to Yahweh your Elohim on top of this rock in an orderly way, and shall take the second bull and offer an ascending offering with the wood of the image you cut down. So build a slaughter place to Yah on top of this rock in an orderly way. Take the second bull and an offering, an ascending offering. Build a fire with the asherim that you cut down, and slaughter this bull and offer it. And Gideon took 10 men from among his servants and did as Yahweh had said to him. And it came to be, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city too much to do it by day, that he did it by night. And the men of the city arose early in the morning and saw the slaughter place of Baal was broken down, and the Asherah was beside it, and it had been cut down, and the second bull was being offered on the slaughter place which was built. And they said to each other, who has done this deed? And when they had inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, son of Joash, has done this deed. I mean, imagine though. Imagine you come to church, Sunday church in the morning, and you get there, and the damn steeple's been pulled off the top of the building. It's been cut up into pieces, and there's a pile of stones set up, uncut stones set up in the parking lot away from the church, because you can't put an altar to Yah where an Asherah has been. So out there in the parking lot, there's a pile of stacked stones. And inside or on top of or next to that stacked stones is this fire, which is the steeple that's on fire. And on top of that is a bull. Most Christians today, I'm telling you, would look at that and go, this is some kind of satanic devil worship. Well, that's exactly what Gideon was told to do. It's exactly what Gideon was told to do. Because the people with the steeple were in false worship. And again, I'm not saying this to make people mad. I'm saying it because I was really mad too when I found out. And I would like for us to move forward in truth to the best of our broken ability. And this is what the Bible says. It's not what some pastor says or what some man says. Myself included. It's what the Bible says. And the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son so that he dies, for he has broken down the slaughter place of Baal. But just understand that Asherah and Baal go hand in hand, okay? Because he has cut down the Asherah that was beside it. And Joash said to all who stood against him, would you plead for Baal? And would you save him? Let the one who would plead for him be put to death by morning. If he is a mighty one, Baal, let him plead for himself, because his slaughter place has been broken down. And so that day he called him Yerubbaal, and said, let Baal plead against him, because he has broken down his slaughter place. Now all Midian and Amalek and the people of the east were gathered together, and they passed over and encamped in the valley of Yisrael. And the Spirit of Yahweh came upon Gideon, and he blew the shofar, and the Abiezerites gathered behind him. And so Gideon destroys this altar to Baal and the Asherah. And then the people get pissed. And then Joash is like, look, man, here's the deal. If Baal's so mighty and powerful, how come Gideon was able to destroy his altar? And so all the old Jewish men are stroking their beards going, a fine point you make here. And now the Midians, remember them with all the camels, the guys who show up and, steal all their corn and eat all their food and their sheep and their oxen and their donkeys. And now all of Midian and Amalek and the people of the east were gathered together. And they passed over and encamped in the valley of Yisrael. And the spirit of Yahweh came to Gideon, and he blew the shofar, and the Abiezerites gathered behind him. They're like, you know what, that guy right there, he's got an ordination of the Father. We think we're going to be on his team. And he sent messengers throughout all of Manasseh, who also gathered behind him. And he sent messengers to Asher and to Zebulun and to Naphtali, and they came up to meet him. So Gideon's gathering an army now. And Gideon said to Elohim, if you are saving Israel by my hand, as you have said, see, I am placing a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece, and it is dry on all the ground, then I shall know that you are saving Israel by my hand, as you have said. And so he takes this bit of fleece, some wool, lays it on the threshing floor. He says, all right, yeah, I need a sign. Dew happens predominantly in the mornings. So when I wake up, man, if this fleece is wet, but the threshing floor is dry, I'll know that that was a miracle. That was you. You did that, because that defies atmospheric explanation. And it was so, and he rose early the next morning and pressed the fleece and wrung dew out of the fleece to fill a bowl with water. And it was so. And Gideon said to Elohim, do not be displeased with me, and let me speak only this time. Let me ask one more thing. Please let me try only this time with the fleece. Please let it be dry only in the fleece, and let there be dew on all the ground. And Elohim did so that night, and it was dry on the fleece only, but there was dew on all the ground. We'll end there today. It's going to be a little warfare next week as we move forward in Judges, talking about Gideon. But we see this repeating pattern of Israel does good because they have good leadership, and people pointing them back to the Father and keeping them in line with what? The Torah, the Father's instruction book on how to people. And when the people remember how to people and they serve Elohim, I mean, this is why Yeshua says, you know, when he's tried in Matthew 22, I think it's 22:37, dude from the Sadducees says, yo, master, rabbi, Rabboni, check it out. What is the greatest command in all the Torah? And Yeshua says there's two. The first is love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. And the second is like unto it, love your neighbor as yourself. And on this hangs all the Torah and the prophets. And he's right. He's Yeshua, of course he's right. But he's right in that you can sum up all of the Torah in those two ideological mastheads. Those two columns. Loving the Lord your God with everything you have, and loving your neighbor as yourself. And if you're doing those two things, you're remembering how to people, how to be the people that the Father commanded us to be. And see, the interesting thing here is we don't get to decide what loving the Lord our God means to us. Like, we don't get to build our own personal temples to Baal and call it worship of Yahweh or Elohim, calling it worship of God. It's not that. He says, no, destroy those things. You got to do my things my way. That's why I wrote it down, so you would remember, guard to do all these commands, right? And that's what Moses is constantly screaming. And then Joshua's constantly screaming, and then all these prophets and these judges and these kings that are raised up are constantly screaming, guard to do all the stuff that Dad told us to do, because if he comes back and our room isn't clean, he's going to whoop our ass, and it's not going to be cool. Dad told us what to do, we better do it. So, I mean, you get back to Yeshua, Matthew 7:21. People love Matthew 7:25, 7:26, 7:27. Build your house upon the rock. They love that little parable, but what they miss is starting in Matthew 7:21. Well, we'll just read it, because I got a Bible right here, right? Maybe that's what we'll end with, is Matthew 7:21. Whoa there, fingers. Too much horsepower on the fingers. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. This is Yeshua speaking, Jesus. Many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name? Then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. Therefore, everyone who does these words, hears these words of mine, and does them, shall be like a wise man who built his house upon the rock. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the wind blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall, for it was founded on the rock. What is the rock? People go, well, it's Yeshua. No. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Well, he just openly rebuked the lawless. What is this rock? What is this thing that Yeshua is commanding us to do? The law. Turn back to it. Remember how to people. Love God with everything you got and love your neighbor as yourself. And if you do that, and everyone hears these words of mine and does not do them, shall be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain came down, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and they beat on that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. Your faith is incapable of withstanding the trials of life if you're not following the Father's commands. And it came to be, when Yeshua had ended these words, that the people were astonished at his teaching, for he was teaching them as one possessing authority, and not as the scribes. And so when Israel has leadership that reminds them to do what Yah tells them to do, remember how to people, love God with everything you got, it goes well for them. And when they don't, drum roll please, it's a crap show. And the briefest of reminders, Israel means he who is struggling with Elohim, he who is overcome with Elohim, and he who is ruling with Elohim, which means, drum roll, that's us. And so remember how to people and love the Lord your God with everything you've got, and do it his way, not your way, and it will go well for you in the land that he has promised to you. Shalom, y'all.